North London forever. These streets are our home. Guys, it couldn't be a better start to the week, really, could it? We put Spurs through at the weekend. We beat them 4-1. We sent them further closer to relegation, and we put ourselves in a better position for the Premier League title come May. So as far as weekends go, it couldn't have gone much better for us. We put Spurs to the sword. We came out, we were so much better than we were against Wolves midweek. And we did what we had to do. And given the magnitude of the situation, and in my previous video, I spoke about how this was quite possibly the biggest North London derby in recent history. Arsenal went out away from home, looking at that ridiculous tifo and the ridiculous announcement from the announcer. Uh, and even with the stoppages for the technology, Arsenal went right through Spurs and even tried to help them. This is one of the best performances I've seen from Arsenal this year, and perhaps the most important performance I've seen from Arsenal this season. Welcome to the boring AFC. My name is Rob. We love pragmatic football and 1-0 wins. Well, that's what they tell us anyway in the mainstream media, even though we only have 5 1-0 wins in the Premier League this year so far. I'm trying to grow my channel. I want to get to 50 subscribers. If I can get to 50, I can stream live. That is the ultimate goal. So if you're here, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. And, I'm really grateful because it will help the channel grow. So let's get to it. I think ultimately, one of the main things that we need to be looking at here is that Arsenal were so much more better than they were against Wolves. And so what was different really, I think the main thing was that we were more purposeful. There was more purpose, there was more, I don't know, there was more direction in terms of what we were trying to achieve. And I think in the post-match interviews, Arteta was saying that we needed to be more attacking when we were playing against these teams. And actually what we saw against Spurs was more forward passing, more direct passing, more line breaking passing, putting the defense on the back foot when that low block was in action. And Spurs didn't know what to do. Jed Spence was absolutely roasted by Saka. Dragonson, if that's his name, didn't know what to do with Gyökeres. The whole of the Spurs back line, Mickey van der Ven was rattled, not listening to his manager. We were so direct that they were always on the back foot. And so it was you could see within the first 10 minutes, even with the stoppages, that this result was only going to go one way. And even when we were drawing 1-0 at half time, I was completely confident. I was completely relaxed, spoke to my mate, no worries, we're going to win this game. And we did, and we won it comfortably. I think they picked themselves up positively from Wolves, and they responded very well to going down when they responded well to conceding as well. And when they came out in the second half, the intensity was high. After Gyökeres scored an absolute worldie, Arsenal didn't do what they had been guilty of, which is sitting back and defending the lead. They went for the jugular. They made Spurs empty, and the toilet bowl smelt rosy for the day. So all in all, a really, really positive response from Arsenal against Spurs, which I think takes us into the game against Chelsea at home. And again, I can only really see that result going one way. They've lost another player, a ridiculous sending off. So they're going to be without Fofana, probably their best defender. And I think they're going to struggle away from home against us again. So I can only see that going one way. Let's talk about some of the players. I want to talk about Gyökeres. By far his best game for Arsenal, and that's echoed by pretty much everyone. So it's not like I'm saying anything new there. But it was his best game against Arsenal. He was strong. He was holding up the ball. He started to have deft touches in his game, and he was scoring goals. And one of the things that I think he was brought in for was to help us score and win against teams that are further down the table. And as we know, it seems that Gyökeres only scores against relegation fodder because he did it against Spurs. And the two goals that he scored were both fantastic goals, but for different reasons. The first one was that classic striker's goal. Push the ball, strike the ball, pass the goalkeeper before the goalkeeper's even had a chance. And to be fair to Vicario, he did get a hand to it, but there's just no way that you're stopping that. And then in his second goal, that lovely little ball from Odegaard into Gyökeres, he holds off the defender and then he drills it past the goalkeeper into the far corner. And he was just too strong. And I feel like we saw his best qualities at the weekend. We saw that he could be strong. We saw that he's fast. He's got a wonderful strike of the ball, but he was also good in the build up for the third goal, that little deft touch to Eze before he laid it off to Saka, holding up the ball. I mean, that's probably an area of the game where he could be better. I think he's so strong that, you know, he's got this kind of idea that he has to hold up the ball when the ball's in the air, and he does do that quite well. The problem is I think sometimes he overcommits. He ends up leaning back on this defender, so he's not going to get fouls. But by the same token, he's also going to end up on his arse quite a lot because the defender's just going to move out the way. So that is one area where he could probably be better. But other than that, it was pretty much a perfect game for him, and he was well deserving of man of the match across multiple platforms. He's also up to 15 this season, 15 goals. So fingers crossed for 20. And if he does get there, or 20 plus, and if he does get there, that is not a bad debut season. In fact, I think that would be the best debut season an Arsenal player has had since Lacazette. So in terms of goal scoring contribution. So we could be onto a really good season. There's still 10 plus games in the Premier League, and that's not including all of the other competitions that we're still in. So it is not beyond the realms of possibility that Gyökeres ends on 20 plus goals this season. And that would be, considering the way people have been speaking about him, quite a remarkable season. And let's not forget, he could have quite comfortably have had a hat-trick as well. He had a beautiful shot in the first half, in the first couple of minutes, that only just sort of kissed the outside of the post before going out. And so I think it shows just how clinical Gyökeres can be. You know, Gyökeres is getting better with the ball at his feet, but I don't need him to be like that either. If he's a one-touch striker, that's absolutely fine, because he's going to score goals. And one of the things I also wanted to mention here is I really believe in Gyökeres' mentality. In fact, I almost think that Gyökeres' mentality is better than his ability, and that's not a criticism. You know, when you look at the way he scores and you look at his eyes, this is a man who genuinely thinks he's the best striker on the pitch whenever he plays. And whether or not you agree with him in that sentiment, it doesn't matter, because all that matters is that he thinks he's the best player on the pitch. And when you've got someone who has that kind of self-belief, things will happen eventually, like they did against Spurs at the weekend. Right. And so I think that there's some really exciting things to come from Gyökeres. And I genuinely believe that he can hit 20 plus in the remainder of the season. He might even get to 25. And if he does, I think there's going to be a few Arsenal fans that need to swallow some humble pie. Right, let's talk about Eze. Eze has become, in the space of about 10 months, Mr. North London Derby. He loves playing against Spurs. It was always in God's plan. And he's scored 5 goals this season alone in North London derbies. He scored 3, the hat-trick, and he scored 2. That's 5. That's the same as Henry, Bal, and RVP. And sometimes you have to credit a manager, because I'm not sure whether Arteta starts Eze if it's not the North London derby. And we can debate about whether Odegaard or Eze should be starting. For me now, I'm starting Eze against Chelsea, right? But if it wasn't Spurs, does Arteta start Eze? And I don't know if he does. And for someone who's so pragmatic, it's quite funny that Arteta's gone for vibes on this, right? But it worked. He was excellent in the 10. I quite like that he was able to drift rather than being sort of swallowed into the right side with Saka. You could see that he was playing across the whole of the front, and that benefited his game. He is a maverick. He's not the type of player that can be tied down. You have to accept that when he's in your lineup. He also has to be more responsible at times, I think. But you're trying to offset one against the other. And the way that if Eze can touch form now, this is the type of player that could take you to a Premier League title or could help lead you to a Premier League title behind Gyökeres. Behind Gyökeres, and then you've got Saka doing his thing, and Trossard if he can continue to maintain his form. This is a team that can win the Premier League. Make no mistake about it. So really, really happy for him, and hopefully he can kick on from here. I want to talk about Hincapie. There's an argument to say that Hincapie has been our best defender over the last month or so. And I don't think that that's an exaggeration. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think that is a genuine thing. Hincapie has been our best defender over at least the last month, maybe 2 or 3. He is cemented at the moment as the number 1 left back of the club. He's so good defensively, particularly in those one-on-ones, and he is improving offensively. He shores up the defence. He started to contribute going forward, and he scored a goal against Wolves. This is a man who we bought in as cover. Well, it was almost felt that way by fans, I think, where he was bought in to cover the left centre-back for Gabriel and the left back for Calafiori. And it looks like he's displaced Calafiori, and it's not Calafiori's fault. He's had injuries, etc. But when you needed someone to step in, you need them to step in and be able to just hit the ground running. And Hincapie has done that over the last 2 or 3 months. Had a bit of a rough start, if I remember correctly. But since then, he stood up and he has been a leader at the back, and he has really shored up our defence. Granted, we've still conceded goals, but you don't look at them coming from the left. All right. The irony is that I think he was slow out for Bueno's goal with Wolves. I also think he was on his way off as well. So other than that, I can't think of many examples where Hincapie has cost us. Just a quick one on Mosquera. Again, what a player. Argument for signing of the season, in my opinion, in terms of value for money. He covered well for Timber. He offered going forward. He locked out Spurs, and he's an absolute bargain. And again, another one who's a bit of a mentality monster. Came on in a big game, like he did with Liverpool, unfazed, and got the job done. And he's the type of player that, 5 years ago, we would have been bringing on Callum Chambers or Rob Holding. And he is not only a testament to our squad depth, but a testament to what eventually could be a starting 11. And so I think that Mosquera is another one of those players where you're going to be looking at him in maybe 2 or 3 months' time if Arsenal win silverware and go, thank God that guy was here. A bit like with Hincapie. Just a quick one on our captain, Martin Odegaard. He didn't start the game. Eze started the game rightfully in the end and got his 2 goals and was just genuinely so important. But when Odegaard did come on, he was important. He had impact from the bench. He was more direct. My friend Ty at Darkside Gunner talks about him being a fidget spinner, just spinning on the spot. You weren't seeing that from Martin Odegaard in this game. And it looked like there was a renewed sense of confidence there. He came on, he was direct, he had that forward passing, he set up Gyökeres really nicely, good pass. And he's another player that's going to be important for the rest of the season, whether you're a fan or not. Martin Odegaard will be important for the rest of the season, because if he can find that forward passing, he already presses excellently. If he can find Gyökeres more in the way that he found Gyökeres against Spurs, Gyökeres is going to bag a lot of goals before the end of this season, because Gyökeres in that angle, in that position, will score goals. And Martin Odegaard is one of the best passers in our team. He just needs to release a little bit earlier, as we saw with Gyökeres in the season. Earlier on in the season, he was delaying passes to Gyökeres. They need to go early and they need to go fast, and Gyökeres will do the rest. Just a couple of other points. Spurs are bad, and I know I joked about it in the beginning, but Spurs are really, really bad, and they are not just potential relegation; they are in danger of going down. And if you look at their games from the rest their games in the rest of the season, you don't look at them and think sure win, sure win, sure win. There is no guarantees for Spurs at all because they are so bad, and Arsenal need to keep that in equal measure as well. They beat an awful team, right? But Spurs are so bad, and they don't have a strong lineup to start with because their injuries and suspensions are killing them. But their bench is so bad as well that there's no one coming on, and you're thinking, well, they're going to make a difference to the game. So I do worry for Spurs because Spurs could go down, and it would be a shame for us because that would be no North London derby, which I love to hate, but it's also a guaranteed 6 points every year, isn't it? So it would be a shame to see Spurs go down just for that, although it would be hilarious to see them go down with that stadium. In terms of momentum, I think that's really important for us going forward. Chelsea next. I think they've been a bit hit and miss under Rossinia, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think they've been breathtakingly great. They've had quite a lot of draws. I think they're going to struggle against us next weekend because I think we're going to be at it. We're going to be at home. They've lost Wesley Fofana. They still don't seem to have that je ne sais quoi. I think we'll beat them. So I think we'll take that into that London derby at the Emirates, and I think we'll get the better of Chelsea. I think Man City have got Leeds coming up at the weekend. That's not going to be an easy game. So, and nor would Chelsea either. But again, an interesting round of fixtures where either result could go either way for both teams. So there's that. I did just want to say quickly that we did ride our luck a little bit in this game. Spurs were bad, but Rice had that mistake in the first half where he gifted Tottenham a goal. Tottenham had a disallowed goal, which was soft. The only caveat to that is that the striker went with two hands on the back of Gabriel. And if you do that, it's a foul, regardless. If he'd gone with one hand, I believe that goal stands. So there we are. So that's the kind of like where the benchmark would be. It's two hands, regardless of how soft it is. If someone's jumping, they are going to move. They're not going to be able to keep their trajectory the same. So that's a foul. And then Raya had that gorgeous cat-like save again, which kind of makes up a little bit for Wolves, I think. But what a save to keep that game, to keep the score at 3-2, because otherwise we're having a really nervy 10 minutes. So we definitely rode our luck. And then just to finish, people say we're paranoid with the media agenda, and I hate sounding like I'm so predictable here. I even hate the sound of my voice as I say it. But when you look at the way Arsenal, look at Gyökeres's goal, it was a worldie. It was one of those goals where you're so proud of yourself, like you can't believe you banged that, right? And Arsenal's players are celebrating, and it goes quiet. There's no commentary, right? There's literally no commentary. And then Gary Neville says, oh, they should be getting back. Oh, do me a favour. And then after the game, Chris Sutton, our Arsenal players, are celebrating like they've won the league. No, they've celebrated that they've just won the North London derby, you bellend. Like, I just think that this nonsense of media coverage when it comes to Arsenal is just embarrassing. Where was the same energy when Man City beat Liverpool in the last 10 minutes? Like, I just don't see how this adds up. And it is frustrating, which is why I've said I made a short video today as well. We have the luxury of choosing what we listen to and engage with, right? So, you can listen to the Arsenal, you can watch the Arsenal game and listen to the Arsenal commentary, and they give you a cue. I think it's something like "and we're off," and you can press play on your Skybox if that's what you're watching it on, and then watch it with an Arsenal commentary. Is it biased? Yes. But you're listening to biased commentary anyway. So what difference does it make? And then you also get to choose what kind of media you engage with after games as well, right? If you're listening to TalkSport, you're listening to the Daily Mail. So that's what you're setting yourself up for. There are other good media outlets that you can listen to if you want to. Even on YouTube, you can listen to Goldbridge or you can listen to Terry Flewers. They might be United fans and have a United bias, but they're actually pretty level in terms of the way they criticise and observe football. And I also think they're quite impartial in the way that they address Arsenal. So look at those guys and stop putting yourself through the ag of listening to absolute nonsense. I don't even know where this energy from Chris Sutton is coming from. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up. North London is red. Thank you, Yukarez. Thank you, Eze. We love you guys. Um, just a reminder, I'm trying to get to 50 subscribers, trying to grow the page. I want to live stream and I want to interact. That's the ultimate goal here. So please like and subscribe. And as always, come on, you Gunners.